Give us a run through of what happened with that property. So just to recap for anybody that doesn't know what this is, right? It's a 4-family in Rahway, right? We bought it with all units occupied.
Correct.
How was it? You want to talk about what happened with each unit?
Yeah. So we have 4 units. Each are 2-bedroom, 1 baths. One has a bonus basement space, I guess, but for the most part, same exact units. The highest rent being charged was $1,300, and the lowest was $900. We're talking like market rent in Rahway for a 2-bedroom, 1 bath is $2,000. Just to give there's a lot of rent to be had there. So one thing is that Rahway doesn't have any rent control laws, so you can raise the rent technically as high as you want. Of course, there are like laws that if you, let's say, go through an eviction and you raise someone's rent to $5,000, that might be considered unconscionable. It's a general term, so you have to be careful with that. But point is, you can raise it to market, and as long as I think you have comps and you can prove it, there's some things you can't control, but for the most part, if you're logical and understanding. So point is, we have to get it to 2,000. So the first thing I do is I introduce myself to everyone, let them know what we plan on doing in the future, so they're not caught off guard, and what our plans are. That's the first thing. And then I want to see what they think.
And this is to the tenants?
To the tenants, yeah. So I'm having that conversation with each of the tenants as soon as we close on the property. Once I do that, I'm going to tell them this is market rent. I'll show them some comps if they want it. And I'll be like, we're not charging you more. We're charging you what market rent is. But of course, we want to make sure we cater to the situation. So I'm not, we bought it in March, February.
Yeah, February, March. Yeah.
We gave them 4 or 5 months to know that this change was coming.
Did they have leases when we bought the property?
No. And one thing, good nugget is, I think you caught that, was making sure that while you're under contract to buy the property, that the current owner signs an agreement acknowledging that they will not put the existing tenants under a lease while this is happening. Because what you don't want is you get caught. Maybe this guy makes them sign a 2-year lease, and now you're stuck with them for 2 years with those terms. So that was big, because now they're month to month. So I can give them 60 days, but like I said, you want to start off on a good foot. So you give them as much time as we can to make sure that we don't have to go to court and any of that. It was great. The good thing too is I'm not the bad guy. My job is the liaison. So the big bad wolf, 1083 Fulton Street LLC, is the big bad wolf. Not me. I'm just Ronnie. I'm just trying to, help you out. So one person left instantly, which was fantastic. So we were able to turn it around.
Right when we closed, right?
Yep. That's because they saw what was happening, and they kind of had a conversation. Hey, Ronnie, we're leaving. I was like, perfect. I was kind of hinting at them what was going to happen. They pretty much caught on. So they left right away. The second lady tried to make it work. I was excited to keep her. But she, for whatever reason, just left. That's fine too. So that's the unit we're going to be turning around. The existing tenants, I told them what the rent rate was going to be. They decided to stay. By all means, right? That's fine. And then finally, we had to start an eviction with the last people. And I finally caught, maybe 3 weeks ago, I finally caught them separate. It's a couple. Together, they back each other up. Separate. It's harder for them to work around, and when I catch someone one-on-one, Jagger too, it's hard for us not to be able to figure out a solution for both of us. So I finally caught them.
So I guess for anyone listening, why do we want them out as soon as possible, right?
Yeah. So, and to be honest, it's not necessarily wanting them out with this particular property, because the property's in good shape. So we don't necessarily have to turn it around, because we weren't planning on refinancing. So we're not trying to pull money out right away. So technically, I didn't want them out. I just needed them to pay market rent, because for one, we have private investors, right? So when we underwrite this deal, we're underwriting it based on the numbers we expect to get. And those numbers aren't $900 a month, right? We have to, aside from our expectation, we also have private investors' expectations, right? So we have to hit our numbers. So, so it can hit the underwriting numbers, so everyone can get paid, or at least try to get everyone paid to what we said we were going to pay them.
And for the most part, we're renovating the units, right?
Yeah.
Getting everything kind of up to date so that we can charge market rent.
Correct, yeah. But in this particular situation, if they wanted to stay, I didn't mind it, but they were gonna. So like, if I normally charge 2,000, I worked the people that are staying to 1,900, but we haven't gotten a chance to go in there. Maybe that might be a slow one. So there is space for wiggle room, right? Because now we save on the renovation, so it gives us more reserves, and so there's a balance, but it can't be 900. That is crazy. So
it seems like with this property, since it's in good enough condition, you can keep the tenants in. But if it's a property that needs a lot of work that we're going to have to get in and fix up, it's probably not going to be able to happen.
It's hard to get somebody to pay 1,900 from what 900 if the unit itself is in really bad shape, right? Like it needs to be in a good enough condition where they're willing to pay that market rent or close to market rent and be comfortable with it.
And our amenities are upgrading, right? Like the garage was a tarp as a roof, right? Like we're updating the property as we go along too on the outside. So now it's not, they're paying now for like a professionally ran, like property, like things are maintained. There's people on it. Like you call me, like I'm sending someone there to fix it right away. So they're getting a way better product, with a good unit that we plan to fix. But even before that, like the amenities that we're upgrading for them is, pays for itself.
And good service too.
Yeah, 100%. They have me on, they gave me a bottle of wine as a thank you. I got them out. They shouldn't be thanking me for that, but
you get over that one? Or
I'm never getting over that.
I said offered it. I didn't get that.
Yeah, Ronnie kept it for himself.
I know.
Yeah.
So that was cash for keys, right?
Correct.
You want to talk about that? What's cash for keys and what happened with this particular unit and this tenant?
Yeah. So cash for keys, essentially, you're paying the tenant to leave. In New Jersey, where we're at, landlord-tenant laws are rough. Even if you win an eviction case, it still costs you 7-8 months of stress, of money, of keeping an attorney under retainer. And even at the end of that, you still might lose,
So it favors the tenants.
I would say. So even in a town like Rahway doesn't have any rent control, it's still kind of favored to the tenant. So you want to try to avoid that. And essentially that's why I like setting the right expectation with the tenant right off the bat. Like, hey, this is what we're planning on doing and we're going to do it. But that doesn't mean that we can't figure out something that works for you as well. But you want to set the tone that, hey, regardless of how I'm going to help you, just know this is the end game. This takes priority. It's how I can help you and still get what I want, which is market rent and a good product, right? So we're willing to help, right? These people wanted to leave. They understood that we were charging market rent. We weren't going over. So it makes sense, but they literally, they didn't have enough money. And it makes sense, right? Like think about like what it takes to like move into an apartment. Like let's say a landlord is charging you first month's rent, a deposit, and last month. Like 2,000, let's say it's 2,000. 2,000 up front for first month. Deposit is a month and a half, that's 5,000, and last month that's $7,000. For a couple. Like that's a lot of money. So sometimes they do need help, right? So yeah, we're willing to help for sure.
So this tenant just doesn't have the ability to move to a new unit. Is that the problem that we faced?
Yeah, but they didn't disclose that until I finally got them separate. They were fighting this battle, like they made it seem they were fighting a battle, like this is wrong and landlords shouldn't be doing this. Once I separated them and I had a talk with them individually, they just, I guess their pride, they substituted like their pride for not wanting to say that to say like, oh no, this is wrong. It wasn't wrong. They understood that, we were logical people. It was just that they didn't want to admit that they needed help. So once we had that conversation, I offered like, hey, maybe we could work something out. And then it's just a matter of like checking X's and O's, right? Like we gave them a couple grand, but it's real simple, right? They're paying $900 a month. Every month that they're there, we're losing $1,000, right? So if you know it's going to take 8 months to get these people out and you still might lose, I don't know, like, right? I know it hurts landlords a lot, right? To like give them, that's my unit. You can't have that mindset. It's just a number, right?
And they were willing to go through the eviction process, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. We started it. They had an attorney. So even then, once again, right, now you're in for like a battle for months that only attorneys are going to win, right? Like they're not going to be happy. We're not going to be happy. The relationship, even if they stay, is going to be weird, right? So everybody just kind of wants a fresh start.
What was that conversation like when you got them separated? Like, how did you talk them into like being realistic that, okay, let's do cash for keys? What was that conversation like?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I control the power dynamic, right? So I'm not going to offer it. I'm going to try to reach the root of their problems and see if together we can come up with cash for keys. Right. So when I got finally the boyfriend separate, he was talking and I kept reminding him. They would brush it off and I would keep reminding of this is going to happen. Any chance I would say like, hey, and I would just get more and more structured. And that's I guess a big tip for landlords. The more professional you are, like the more you know the laws, the harder it is to get one over you. Because they're going to be like, fuck, this isn't the guy. So they would say something. I'll be like, I don't know. I would check. But as per, 5.2, that's actually not true. So definitely double check if you guys want to go with that, right? So what happens is they kind of lose leverage. They're like, fuck, I can't fuck with this guy. So you force them into a state of like emotion now. Because logic, they're going to lose with logic because I do this every single day. They don't, right? Unless you're a full-time, unless you're like a professional tenant, right?
And they know that you have an attorney backing you at the same time, right? You're like, sprinkle that in, I'm sure, in your conversation.
Oh my God.
I got to check with my attorneys or something, right? Like they know that we have backup. Like anything that they say is going to get used against them in a way.
Yeah, and you say that in a nice way, right?
In a nice way.
Be like, look, I want to help you guys, but honestly, like, I don't know how much money you guys have in the bank or are willing to spend, but these guys don't care. They're going to spend whatever because it's not just one property. They have multiple properties. So for them, they're going to win. They're going to win somehow. And it's just a dollar amount. Are you guys ready to like commit that hard? I wouldn't. And I just kind of said it like that, right? So you want to put them in that emotional state. So finally, boyfriend by himself, he's like, I wanted to talk to you. He's shaking. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to hurt his pride now, but I'm going to now like really dig into the pain. Got the pain out. He couldn't afford it. They can't afford it. They found a place. They got accepted to it, but now they don't know what to do, right? That's it. You left your cards. You showed me your cards. Now I can control exactly how I want to take you. So they were asking for like $10,000. And I was like, maybe we can do 10. Why do you need 10? And now, what do you mean? Yeah, break it down for me. Like, where's that 10 come from? Broke it down, only needed half. And I'll be like, okay, that's realistic. Like, that's half. They showed me the lease. Like, they were paying $2,000. I was like, all right, cool. That's what I'm sorry, $1,500. They showed me the math. I was like, all right, that we can do. Help them out with that. And by then, like I said, emotionally, you own them now. That's it. They expose themselves. They're vulnerable. And not for you to take advantage. Like I said, we're still trying to help them. We help them out. But they're vulnerable now. So you can control the conversation. There's no more ego, right? So that's why I feel like you have to be nice and you got to know your shit.
Yeah, so you got down to the root of the problem, right? Get rid of all the fluff. No more like, hey, ego battling each other, right?
Yeah.
It's more like, how do you help them solve their problem? Ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and now we're happy. We're gonna be able to bring this motherfucker up to like market rent. They're happy. They got a fresh start.
They give you a bottle of champagne.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Boom.